We must eat less meat and less fish. We must use genetically modified crops, and we must embrace free trade.
I think the best way of feeding the world is to make much more use of Africa. Africa, for political reasons, doesn't grow a great deal of food. It could grow far more. It's the obvious place to feed the world.
Actually, I'm not worried about feeding 9 billion people. I think we could already do that now. I think the problem is not technological and scientific, it's political. It's distribution of the food products that we need to get around corrupt governments.
I don't know how we can feed 9 billion people, but it's all right not to know things in science.
We can try to feed 9 billion people, but it is clearly beyond the carrying capacity of the Earth, and so we ultimately have to reduce our importance in the world for ultimate survival. We cannot be 9 billion people, or 10, or 12, or 15. We have to be far less.
Well, there's no magic bullet. It involves, first of all, coming to terms with the fact that we will have to put a price on the emission of carbon.
There's a very simple way of reducing global CO2 emissions, which is to put a rather high tax on carbon. It's politically difficult, but it's the obvious way of cutting consumption.
At the same time, there needs to be engagement in terms of personal responsibility. We have to make choices that decrease our own greenhouse footprints.
I'm also in favour of a massive expansion of the nuclear program. There's been nuclear paralysis since Chernobyl. It's the obvious way of providing clean energy, and we should boost the nuclear program worldwide.
I'm not so pessimistic about CO2 emissions. I think global warming is real and largely human caused, but I think it's not clear how disastrous it's going to be. And so I think there's time to let market forces operate. That is, I'd rather encourage people from the bottom up through incentives, tax incentives, or cheaper cars, cheaper fuels, alternative energy sources. I think there's time to do that and let that happen. I'd prefer that rather than top-down draconian by fiat government controls over people's freedoms of what they can do and how they can move around. I don't think it's fair to tell developing nations that they can't be like us. I think that's a little hypocritical. So I think there is time to let market forces work.
As the great prophet of global warming and Gaia, James Lovelock says, we must build more nuclear power stations. We must not turn our back on technical fixes, and at the same time, we must learn to live using less energy. And it's not a choice between these things, it's all of them together, and then we still cross our fingers.